I am super excited to share a little 6-month update today, a Ruby update. Today we celebrate 6 months since the day she and I met. And I'm going to be doing some Q&A stuff later. And right now I'm just doing a little recap of our time in China. Okay guys, I'm really excited about this. I actually got some questions, which whenever I decide to do like Q&A stuff, participation varies greatly, and a lot of times I don't get any questions, so I was really excited. So I asked for questions over on Instagram as well as Facebook. If you're not following us there, you should. I post all the time. I'm an over poster. Lots of pictures because I like to take pictures. So anyways, so the number one question was regarding Ruby's language development. Like, is she speaking English? What is she saying now? She is way further than I think I ever anticipated at this point, 6 months into being exposed to English. The things that she says very regularly are mama, daddy. She calls Zoe Ollie. She does not say Annika. She has said it, but she usually says holla to get her attention, like holla, holla. And it's really funny. She has said the boys' names as well, but she doesn't use them regularly. She has said a lot of things that she doesn't say regularly, but I'm kind of going over the stuff that she says pretty much every day. Some of her favorites are no, stop it, eat. We hear eat a lot. She does have a word to tell us that she needs the bathroom. She just says poo. She always says juice. If she's thirsty, she just tells us juice, and she usually does the little juice. It's really cute. I can't do it cute like her. She also says go and play, and she in just the past couple weeks has started saying I and me, so that's fun. She says and me, like and me, and she does this. So it's like, yes. And so now it's kind of typical for her whenever we get to a place and park the car, she says, and me, because she wants to know. She wants to be a part of everything. So that's, or she'll tell us I, like if we try to help her with something, she may say like she wants to do it. She's saying I'll do it. So yeah, and along those lines, someone did ask, how does she communicate with Zoe and I? And I mean the same. She has some words she uses. She has gestures, and she'll point. So she's definitely good at communicating. She has been since day one, really. She has a way of communicating her needs that's never, ever been a problem. And to answer one question that I have later, that is something that was definitely a positive surprise, that she could communicate so well to me what she needed or wanted, for the big stuff like eating, going to the bathroom, that kind of thing, and wants as well. How intimidating was the actual formal process? What advice do you have for parents considering international adoption versus domestic? I have to say, on that question, I don't really know the differences in it. I really don't know the variables, but I know there are definitely variables, just the same as there's variables between different countries. And I only know my own experience. I would say that if I let it, it would be very intimidating. I had to kind of constantly remind myself to just take one thing at a time, like, this needs done, let's get this done. Then we move to the next thing. And just sometimes it feels super crazy and like so much, but then you get to the end and you have it all done and you're like, oh my gosh, we did it, we got it all done. And now we're, then you're kind of just in this like waiting after you get all the big paperwork and stuff done, then you're just kind of like waiting for other people, everything to go through. Okay. How did you know you needed Ruby? What led you to adopt? We have talked about adopting for years. I've probably shared this before. I don't know if I have on the vlog or not, but I was looking at Reese's Rainbow one evening, and I have done that before. I'm sure I had probably even seen her picture before, but on this particular night, it is my belief that God opened my eyes, and I was scrolling through, and I just stopped. And I can't really explain it, but I knew I was hers. I knew I was her mom. And it was kind of weird and kind of scary, because I was like, well, if I'm her mom, that means I have a kid on the other side of the world, and how am I going to get her home? How am I going to do this? Like, adoption was not in the plan at that time. It was like always a, well, hopefully someday type of thing. So that was a lot of prayer. How did you choose her beautiful name? Of course, one of the first things, I started thinking about names, and I had thought, Ruby was kind of in my mental list. And then my son Jericho actually mentioned it. And I was like, yeah, I like that. And then my husband actually mentioned it, and, it was just random. Like, they mentioned it. I was like, yeah, I really like that name. But then, because I am me, I kept researching other names. I, wanted to find, this perfect name, and I wasn't finding it, and I found some that I loved, but my husband did not love them. And really, over the course of a few months, she just became Ruby. And when Zoe started calling her Ruby, it was kind of like, that's it. She is Ruby. She became Ruby. So that's her first name. Her middle name, I'm so sorry. I actually can't probably do it justice. I can't say it quite properly. When you say it slowly, it's Lufungsha, but I noticed that they tend to say it much faster, like Lufusha. I'm sorry. I know I butchered that, but that was her Chinese name, so I wanted to keep that. And it's very, very special. The Lu is actually the surname, and I guess a lot of people probably don't keep the surname part of their child's name, even when, they do choose to keep it. But it was very important to me because the orphanage director at the time that Ruby entered the care of the SWI, which is an orphanage, that orphanage director, he was there for a long, long time, and he gave all the kids his last name. And that's just very special because a lot of times children in the care of an orphanage are, I think historically were given last names that they then could be identified as orphans. And this man did not want that for these children. And so he gave them all his last name. And so that made it really special to me. Like, I was like, I have to keep it. I have to. I cannot change that. And then her second middle name, because we all have 2 middle names, and it is Sonia, which is my mom's name. So that's, I don't really need to explain that. It was special. It's Nana's name. Her favorite American food is probably chicken nuggets or chicken fries. So I don't know that they're necessarily American. I'm not sure. And on that note, how much has she grown? I'm not exactly sure because I cannot find the paper from the first time we took her to the doctor, but that was already almost like I had her for like 2 months at that point. But I know she's grown at least 2 inches and probably gained about 8 pounds. So, we're trying to keep her active and make sure that that's not a trend. And that's just a newly home thing. Someone asked if I can tell you guys about Ruby's birth family. We don't know anything about Ruby's birth family because that is just not the way that it works in China. And someone else also asked about her birthday, whether it was a known date or whether it was chosen. It was chosen. In China, parents do not have a legal way to relinquish their parental rights. So, the only option is to technically abandon them. They are, they are technically abandoned, but they are left where someone will find them. I know that in a lot of adoption in other countries, people talk about the abandonment, and some kids it's just that they're left in the hospital or some are taken to an institution. It is very different in China. Someone had asked about how schooling has been. Because of when Ruby's birth date falls, I chose not to enroll her in school. I felt that that would be too much for her, too much for me. Someone had asked if both girls are in mainstream education. They are not, because right now we choose to homeschool. And that's kind of what we homeschool through a charter though, so we do have requirements. And I felt that with her just being home, she's learning English still, all of that, it would be very hard to fulfill some of those requirements with her just adjusting. How hard has it been getting support for them? I can speak for that. With Zoe, because we homeschool through a charter, they do offer services and they are amazing and wonderful. If you're in California and you're interested, look up Horizon Charter Schools. They have been phenomenal. harder than you anticipated about the trip or bringing home your child? And also, what was easier? So what was harder was, I remember very distinctly when I was in China, I kept thinking, nothing could have prepared me for this. And it was my emotions, like the things I was feeling. I remember, I don't know why I didn't anticipate this, but I was very upset for her past. I remember I just kept thinking, this is so unfair. This is so unfair for her. And I kept getting really, really sad that, that we didn't know anything, like I mentioned earlier, that we knew nothing about her birth family, and that even she's been with foster families for 4.5 years, and even the amount of knowledge we have of that is very, very limited. And I remember I kept thinking, it's not fair. And, that's just kind of the way it goes. And I knew that, but for some reason, all of that emotion was kind of coming out there when I was in China. And some of the feelings I was having kind of surprised me too. Like, I had a couple moments where I was kind of like, what am I doing? Can I really do this? And then it's like, of course you can. Of course you can. I just had to, I had a few really, really hard days. And I did reach out to one of the adoption groups that I'm a part of on Facebook. And I said, hey, I just need some encouragement. And they were very quick to give me that encouragement, and very, very amazing. And, I was also sick at the time, and so that did not help. I was sick, and I was hormonal, and having all these feelings that I hadn't anticipated. And thankfully, I started feeling better, and it was only like 3 really, really hard days, and then I was kind of back on track. Like, okay, I'm doing this. This is it. I'm her mom. I'm doing this. This is where I go. Here we go. But I did kind of have to really, really regroup. Another part that was a little harder was, she kind of was like anything could kind of set her off, and she would like kind of go into like a raging, screaming fit. And like you're in a hotel and you don't really want your child to be screaming for a half an hour. So I very quickly was like, okay, I really want to avoid this, but kind of whenever anything didn't, like basically what it was she wanted to leave the room. And if I said like, no, we're not leaving right now, all hell broke loose. So I very quickly had to kind of regroup my thought on that too, and just be like, you know what? We need to leave often. She needs to walk. She needs to go to the little play area and play, So I tried to be prepared for this, but it still was a little bit exhausting. The reality of it is a little bit exhausting, but that's part of being a mom, part of being a parent. Sometimes you are exhausted. And as far as what was easier, everything else was easier. It felt so natural. Like, it felt so much more natural than I thought it might. I wasn't sure how that was going to be. This was our first adoption, and so I was kind of like, is this going to be totally weird? And it really wasn't. It was really, really just felt so natural. It's like, I had a little issue with my camera. It's apparently after a certain amount of time it stops recording. I don't know. I never recorded this long. So yes, it just felt supernatural. That's where I left off. I actually also did ask for some input from people on one of my adoption groups. When I say that, I mean like on Facebook. It's like a Facebook page, and definitely I recommend that if you're looking into adoption. Get your kind of like tribe going on, because that can be super duper helpful with the kind of like logistics, and like, oh my gosh, I have this form, what am I supposed to put here? Or, hey, what hotel do you recommend there? Or just there's so many things. And then once your child's home, like, has anyone dealt with this behavior? What are some suggestions you have? Anything like that. They're great. They're great. I did not get a ton of input, but one thing that someone said was the reality of your picture child and them in the flesh with you. And I would say I tried so hard not to make her my picture child. And it can be hard because you're looking literally at pictures and even videos, and you're just wondering, like, oh, what's she like? What could she be like? And I can say that from the pictures and videos, we never ever could have anticipated this little girl that is so full of smiles and so full of joy. If you follow us on Instagram, you probably remember every picture I posted. She was so serious and looked a little bit lost sometimes, or in retrospect, maybe a little bit annoyed. I don't know, but so I'm not exactly sure how to answer, because I don't feel like I built her too much up into like, this is how I think she'll be. I think it was more like we would say, I wonder if she's really that serious, or if that's just because I think someone actually said to me, the person doing the video might be a stranger to her, and so maybe she's just a little, like camera shy, stranger shy, or like this random stranger is visiting and just pointing a camera at me. And I think that kind of helped too, to think, like, this may not be like how she really is day to day. She may not be so serious and so sort of just looking a little lost. So I guess the picture child was not knowing how she would be. I would say I was probably, even though I tried to be very prepared, because it is very common, I think it still took me a little off guard how physical she was, both in physical ability and in physical response. Kind of her way of sharing that she's feeling angry or upset was physical ways. And I haven't dealt with that a whole heck of a lot, so that was probably, I was mentally prepared, but actually dealing with it is a little different. Along that same line is just some of the anger that she has. I'd say especially more in China, but yeah, she can kind of go from 0 to very angry very quickly. So that's fun too. So someone asked, what is the biggest struggle or challenge for me with Ruby? Honestly, the biggest challenge is not knowing what she's feeling. And when she has more words, I hope that, she'll use the words. Because the other biggest struggle or challenge for me is just those physical responses she has that, like, you can't do that, so you need to come off the playground. So she's scratching me. So just not knowing what she's feeling, and then the fact that she does have those physical responses when she is angry, that can be challenging to deal with. And I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to make sure that my response is ultimately gonna help her and not make her more angry, or or just not teach her that this isn't the way that we're gonna be. God bless all of my children, because I'm still working on so many things. Motherhood, super fun. what is her biggest struggle. That, I mean, is kind of hard because I have to speak for her on that, because she can't tell me, but I would say probably, I'm guessing it's probably hard for her to understand that we are her forever. I don't know, how much she was told. I don't know how much of that she would understand, even if she was told. But, she was in a foster home for many, many years. And then her last year in China, she was moved about a year before I got her. And so it's hard to say that she doesn't think that we're just the next one in the rotation of people to care for her. I hope she's not thinking that, but it's hard to know for sure. Because I also don't really know how much of the concept of, she says mama and daddy, but I don't know how much of that she understands either. So it's very, don't know. And then I'd say her other biggest struggle is because, her receptive language is absolutely amazing. She understands most of what we say, as far as we can tell. But I think that it's still hard to, for her to understand, like, you don't have to protect your food. No one's going to take your food. You don't have to protect your toy or, whatever you're using that moment. Nobody's going to take it from you. And also anything time concept, like, I'm not telling you no, that you can't go outside and play. I'm trying to convey that we're not going to do that right now, but we will in a little bit. And time concepts can be hard anyways for young children and children with Down syndrome. But it's also, I think, a language thing. Very hard to put that, like, have her understand. So that's sometimes her frustration. And it's frustrating for me too, because I'm trying to tell her, sweetheart, I promise we're going to do it in 5 minutes, or, whatever it is. So that's the thing. Finally, what is the most rewarding part of having her with you and your family? Everything, really. Just having her home, getting to know her, getting to love her. I no longer have to kind of ache to get to her and to get her home, and that felt like forever. So it really is outstandingly rewarding to just have her home. She's amazing in a million ways. We adore her, and I could never choose one most rewarding thing. Everything about having her here is the most rewarding. She's a beautiful, incredible little girl, and we are so, so lucky to call her our daughter.